This is Casual Babble. Okay, welcome everyone back to this show. It's Casual Babble. I'm your host, BC Babbles, and today I'm here with Lisa Franz. She is an incredible thought leader and entrepreneur in the health and wellness and mindset space. Welcome, Lisa. Thank you so much for being here today. Happy to have you.
Thank you for having me, BC. It's going to be a great conversation, I hope.
I think so too. So I'm looking forward to diving in here. So to kick off, before we get into our main topics, talk a little bit about your pre-entrepreneurial journey. What were you doing before launching your business? What kind of inspired you to move from where you were, if it was a different place, into that entrepreneurial venture?
Absolutely. So, yeah, I have probably not the most conventional path towards entrepreneurship. And to be honest, BC, I would never necessarily thought I would be or become an entrepreneur. I
Okay.
think often we hear stories where people are like, oh, yeah, even when I was like 5 years old, sold lemonade out on the street and blah, blah. That was not me. I've always looked at myself more as a number two. I'm a good implementer, good executor, good follower.
Hmm.
But while I have creativity, I never necessarily wanted to step into that leadership role. And I didn't actually think too much about like my specific positioning too much as I was growing up or as an adolescent. But I always just knew I was very passionate about physiology, anatomy, helping
Mm.
people live a healthier and better life. So out of college or out of high school, I studied exercise science and nutrition and health promotion, but I didn't really know what to do with that. I was like, I don't want to
Okay.
be a personal trainer. I just feel like I'm lacking life experience. And so I actually joined the New Zealand police because I was living in New Zealand at the time. I
Okay.
joined the New Zealand police and became a frontline police officer for several years. And while I quote unquote enjoyed that to an extent in the sense of learning a lot about myself, learning a lot about humanity and so on, I was always, even while at work, thinking about training, how to help other people with their training, how to help other people with nutrition. And I was going through my own nutritional struggles as well, which
Oh, okay.
when I figured out how to solve them, I was like, I want to make this my main mission. I'm going to transition out of full-time employment and start, well, I didn't necessarily think I wanted to start my own business, but I was like, I want to be a nutrition coach. So
Gotcha.
while I was still in the police, I was actually connecting with a nutrition coaching company, which is located or was located in Seattle, Washington,
Okay.
and started working for them part time as I was still in the police. And like for anyone who's hesitant about starting a business or transitioning from one business to another, I would always recommend doing that, like a slow transition. I know often people say like you need to pull the trigger fully, just quit, just go all in. But
Yeah.
I believe for the majority of people that also have bills to pay or perhaps a family to look after or so, it just provides a little bit of extra security if you know by the time you leave one job, you at least have a foot in the door for another job. And so by the
Yeah.
time I left the police, I had already built up to part-time coaching with this company. And I also say to people that are brand new at something or people that are brand new out of college or so, I think it's great working for someone else at first. There are
Hmm.
certain people that are born entrepreneurs and they're just like they're action takers. They know what they want, they go for it. That wasn't me. Like I was just like I kind of feel lost. Like how do you even use Excel spreadsheets? Like what would I use for payment systems? I have no idea. How do I collect this? And nowadays with AI, I mean you can figure out things out even more easily.
Very
But this
true.
was like 2018, and I am
Right.
not a tech savvy person. So I was just like, I just want to coach. I just want to be a better coach and connect with people. That's literally all that I
Hmm.
was thinking about. So these first 2 years that I was then working full time for that company were incredibly helpful because I had a leader, a guy, someone to guide me that I could
Hmm.
direct my questions to when I had issues with my clients, but also just someone who would show me their systems. And I was learning from that. And after 2 years, I was like, you know what? I feel like I've learned everything I can from this person. I now feel confident enough to go out on my own. And he was very kind in letting me take a few of the clients that I had at the time with me. And then
Mm,
from there, it just took a few more months essentially to build my client base back up. And yeah,
very
so
good.
I've been running my own business since 2021 now. In 2022, I brought in the first coach that worked for me. I now have three ladies that work for me, and
Hmm.
I still, like to my earlier point of like not necessarily seeing myself as a number one, I still see it more as a collaboration rather than me just being there telling people what to do. I'm
Yeah,
a very like I don't like to micromanage at all unless someone is doing something that's not aligned with my values or the company
right.
values. I much prefer they kind of do things their own way while following our methods, I guess.
Right. And now let me go ahead and reiterate some things that you said. Firstly, second year into my entrepreneurship, and I still do not use spreadsheets. I will do everything in my power to avoid using spreadsheets because that is not my area. It will never be my area. I'm waiting till I can hire someone who can handle
Yes.
that, who likes to handle it, because that is just that doesn't sit well with my heart, with my soul. That's just not
Love
me.
it. Love it.
And then also to your point of that transition that you chose to have, I will reiterate that too because that is definitely the smarter route that you took, moving into have first finding a mentorship, staying on with your job, and developing this side hustle so that when you transition fully, you know this is established, this is a platform that has some footing, and you can operate pretty well moving on into that full time. I did not do that. Granted, I was let go from my last full time job, so I didn't have a lot of preparation for that. But even then, instead of looking for another more consistent income avenue, I just went full time and I'm like, this is dumb. I should definitely have put a bit more forethought into this, but it still provided a lot of beautiful uh, educational moments. I did get a lot of time to learn how I like to develop relationships and build networks and find people, connect with people. So there's a trade off for everything, I'll say in
Yeah,
that regard, but for sure,
I'll
you
add
did the
one thing
smarter
to
thing.
that if I may. Yeah, so I do think there's the other end of the spectrum of the majority of people, unfortunately, that do want to build a side hustle or they're like, oh, this is my actual passion, but then they never pull the trigger. And
Mm,
unfortunately, their normal life, day-to-day life, consumes them so much that they only
mm,
devote like an hour a week to their passion project. It's like
yeah,
that's not the point either. Like you, in that
right.
case, you can't complain that nothing ever changes because
Hmm.
you actually like for instance, I had a specific date. I was like, with in 5.5 months' time, at this and that date, I have handed in my resignation with the police already. There's no
Mm,
going back. I need to build up by then. I was working on the weekends as well. Like I was pretty
right.
much working two jobs in order to get to that place, as opposed to just saying, "Oh, I'm gonna start building my side hustle," and then never actually going all in. I think that that is probably the more common one, um,
Yeah.
and and I would probably prefer your route of like, over the person that never actually does anything.
I mean, if I'm not sure if you really feel that way because there's some things I would not have uh preferred to avoid, especially when it comes to I think for the first 4 or 5 months, I was only making like $700 a month.
Wow,
So
yeah.
that was rough. That was super
Yes.
rough. And I kind of feel what you say too when it comes to your home life kind of consumes a lot of things. So, and I don't know if you've had this habit. Let me know if you have, where as a service provider, that an entrepreneur that provides a service, I find it so much more easy or so much easier for me to focus and give that 100% to my clients, but I can't reciprocate that for myself and make sure that I take care of me 100%. And so it just comes down to like, why is my clients marketing so much better than my own? Like, why does their stuff look so much better than my stuff? But that's also something that I've had to learn to move past. But loving it so far, and so now you are the owner of Nutrition Coaching and Life. So talk about what was your initial concept for it. You talked a little bit about how you found certain solutions for yourself, and you wanted to kind of build this around those solutions for other people who were facing them. So talk about how you took that and then built that foundation for yourself.
Yeah, so I mean, for the people listening, all of my work is online. I'm actually a digital nomad. I travel around the world. I'm originally from Germany, so I left Germany in
Hmm.
2009, moved to New Zealand until 2019, and for the last 6 years, I've been sort of globe trotting. And that was a big incentive for me to be able to work location free. Like at first, when I said, I mean, yes, I have a passion for anatomy, for the gym, for nutrition, that it was 100% true. But at the same time, it was like, I need to make this work to be from anywhere in the world, regardless
Hmm.
of time zone. So yeah, I have calls and I have record podcasts, etc., where I set a specific time. But generally speaking, I don't always on Mondays want to have a meeting at 9 a.m. Because perhaps I'm in Thailand and that's my 4 a.m. the next day, so I don't want to get up. So I just knew that that was the freedom I wanted to create, and I sort of
Hmm.
rolled up my systems and how I wanted everything set up from that place. So even with my nutrition coaching clients, many people have their business set up where they only do phone consultations. For me,
Hmm.
almost everything is voice messages, emails, text messages, and only very rarely, aside from like an initial phone call, will I have a face-to-face Zoom or whatever conversation with that
Okay.
person. So again, that provides a lot of freedom. There are
Hmm.
amazing platforms these days where you can create training programs without having to necessarily FaceTime that person at the gym or whatever. Um, and so that is a big part that provides liberty. Now, many people after like a year or so in my business have said to me, "Oh, Lisa, you should start creating group coaching programs because of course you can, less time, more people in one bucket." That is something I have never wanted to do. I think that
Okay.
applies to any business, if you're or if you're a service provider, most people either increase their price or they want to serve more people at the same time. And I chose to go the prior route because I have just found nutrition to be something that is so personal.
Mm.
And like the people that I work with, they struggle with emotional eating. Perhaps they have issues with their husband, and that causes them to overeat. They have
Mm.
uh, stressful lives, and that causes them to have certain eating patterns. So it's not as easy as like, oh, we're going to bunch the same 10 people in a group because they all want to lose weight. For me,
Yeah.
that's not something where we get to the end goal when my end goal
Hmm.
for anybody is long-term sustainable habits as opposed to just short-term weight loss. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's I mean, again, I've worked with various business coaches as well, and some of them have said to me, Lisa, that's a stupid approach, because you're limiting yourself in terms of the people that you can service, because obviously my day is limited. But in order to like compensate for that a little bit, I do have the three ladies that work for me. So whenever
Right.
I feel like my bucket is getting full and I do want to keep making myself a priority, also to your prior point, um, and then I just hand off the clients to
Hmm.
one of the other coaches. So yeah, that's been very helpful just to like think about it in that way. And I do think sometimes money is not everything. We need to think about like what kind of service do we want to provide? Do we want to be more
Right.
a higher end or lower end, or like how many people do we want to serve?
Hmm.
Yeah, I believe every entrepreneur probably gets to the point where they're like, yeah, what's the next step?
Right. And I was going to say the second you mentioned someone pitching to you doing group work and having perused your site, I was already thinking she seems to really appreciate the individuality of health and wellness. So I was pretty on track with you when you said that was not going to be a route that you took. Now, regarding how um, kind of little ones one-on-one time you do have with your clients, so is your work kind of built around making sure that they understand uh, their not culpability? What's the word I'm looking for? Their accountability, and
Mhm.
taking what you provide and then them following through on it to ideally hit you up every now and then with successful updates.
Yeah, no, you're hitting it on the head there because truly, I think the accountability part and the part that I am, like, even though I'm not jumping on a phone call with them, I am available to them essentially 24/7 via text
Hmm.
or email. And I just like the only rule that I have for myself and for my coaches is we have to get back to our clients within 24 hours. Even like if it's
Mhm.
the weekend, I might just say to that person, oh, thanks so much for your message. I'm excited to respond to you in detail on Monday, but I hope you have a lovely weekend or what. Like people just like feeling heard and knowing that
Yeah.
there's someone there. Like especially when it comes to something like food and you're bloated right now. It doesn't help you if I respond a week later and tell you, "Oh, I'm so sorry you were bloated a week ago." Like they're like, "Yeah, this is not anything that
Yeah.
serves me." So essentially, when someone starts up, so I guess going back to the story of my own struggles, I
Hmm.
just always thought you should be able to enjoy life and at the same time enjoy the body that you have. And I was always
Hmm.
sort of caught between the two because like I love traveling, I love being social, I love a nice date night meal or whatever, but at the same time I want to look good, I want to feel healthy. And
Right.
initially that meant for me going through various diets. So like I was always restricting myself with going through paleo, high carb, low
Hmm.
carb, whatever. And so that's sort of the person that I work with now also, people that like they live an active life. They
Hmm.
think they're eating well, but they just don't look that way or they feel very restricted. And so
Hmm.
eventually I learned that essentially it comes down to calorie balance, or what's going in, what's going out. And it doesn't necessarily, like, you can't easily incorporate a glass of wine and some pizza on Friday when you know how to balance that out with some healthy food as well throughout
Right.
the rest of the week. And so I really try to approach nutrition from a very sort of like open moderation balance perspective with my clients, because I think there's so many people out there that tell you this is good, this is bad, you can't have this, you can't have that, you feel guilty if you eat this, you feel guilty if you eat too much. And like life is too short to be constantly in a state of guilt, and life is too short to not have,
Hmm.
like, food should be something that enriches your life. That's essentially like my mission,
100%.
so that you can perform well in your business with your family and you just feel good. And yeah, I think approaching it from that educational side and like as opposed to more of a moral side of view with
Hmm.
people, it really helps. And then basically on a weekly basis, we have like a mandatory point of contact where they check in with me and reflect on
Yeah.
their week and tell me what went well, what didn't go so well, what's coming up in the next week. But yeah, in
Hmm.
between those check-in points, they often reach out as well and just say like, "Hey Lisa, I'm going out for dinner tonight. I'm thinking about having the steak. What do you think? Is that a good choice, or how can I navigate my day around that?" So that's kind of like
Hmm.
the process of the coaching.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you so much on there. I'm still in my fitness journey trying to figure out, okay, what can I know how to make healthy stuff. It seems harder to afford the healthy stuff. So how do I,
Mhm.
especially with me being still kind of developing the entrepreneur side and that being my my primary income. But I do it. I definitely agree that having that accountability and having someone willing to approach you from the educational standpoint, but still be available even if you're not in their space every single week is a very awesome approach. Now, um, so overall you're currently in an industry that one might call saturated, definitely pretty crowded. So moving into your entrepreneurial venture, or when did you start kind of deciding how you wanted to go about kind of cutting through that noise? I think we're at a point now where on any given social platform, you're seeing like every fourth or fifth video, someone showing off their body, talking about their health routine or their services. Me, probably more so because I do appreciate a solid thirst trap. But what was your approach to deciding? Okay, how is Lisa going to establish herself within this again kind of saturated industry?
That's such a great question, BC, especially like at this time in the industry. And I am so fortunate and thankful that I got into it like before the big boom and before the pandemic as well. So like, I mean, 2018, 2019 full time
Mm,
then. That was like literally enough time for me to ease into it. And when the pandemic then hit, I had so many people reach out like, "Oh, I too want to become want to go online. How did you become a digital nomad?" Like I heard that from so many people, and I was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa. Number one, I don't think the majority of people would actually enjoy a nomading lifestyle. Like it
Mm,
looks cool on paper, it sounds cool, but it's not always bubbles and unicorns and rainbows.
right.
Like I would say that actually, like, it requires almost even more self-discipline because, I
Mm-hmm.
literally have a beach in front of me and I still need to get my work done. And that's actually a mistake that I made in the early months of my entrepreneurship, where I was like, oh, yeah, sure, I'll go surfing and then take a yoga class and do my work later in the day. And then after a few months, I was like, number one, the work I'm producing is just way lower quality than if I
Mm-hmm.
actually work at more productive hour because I'm more of an early bird.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, I'm not going to be able to grow my business. And number three, many of the people around me actually had to go back to their home country because they were
Mm.
running out of money and,
Yeah.
and were sort of like failed entrepreneurs. So you
Oof.
do
Yeah.
learn, or you do need to get into the habit of like setting your own times when to work and not just trusting like, oh, I feel like doing this right now. I feel like doing that right now. If you want to be
Mhm.
successful, that's not going to be a good strategy for you.
Right.
So I'd had all this learning basically before the pandemic even hit. I think that was very, very fortunate. And then, given the industry that I'm in with fitness and nutrition, actually, we had a big, I almost want to call it a boom,
Mm.
2021, or so like 2020 and 2021, because I
Okay.
think like many people realized, okay, I've got money burning in my pocket that I can't spend on travel, etc. Now is a good time to really focus on me. I can't eat out anyway. I can't do anything else. Like you either had the one extreme where people just completely let go and gained more weight and neglected any kind of physical activity, and then other people that really utilized that time in terms of their own health.
Mm-hmm.
And so I profited from that side, and that was also when and why I then was able to start my own business.
Mm.
Now, since then, I will be honest, probably the last year and a half or two has
Okay.
been more stagnant, if not at times going down. Like for me, business-wise, the first few years was like up, 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 up. And I was just like, whoa, this is amazing. If this keeps going, like, I'm not going to complain. But then probably, I mean, since inflation has increased, even like the majority of my clients is in the US, the
Mm-hmm.
whole like not knowing what's coming up in terms of politics has really
Right.
put a damper on things. And then on top
Oof.
of that, AI does play make a difference because for
Yeah.
example, people are just like, AI, give me a lunch with 30 grams of protein. I have chicken in
Mm-hmm.
my fridge and it should be less than 500 calories. And boom, you have a recipe and it's like, okay.
Yeah.
They don't see the point of the accountability that obviously AI doesn't provide, but it does hold some people back from investing
Mm-hmm.
in a proper coach. And
Absolutely.
then throw in Ozempic and the rest of it. So that is why the last few or last year and a half or so, things have stagnated slash gone down a little bit.
Yeah.
And I have seen that amongst like other people in my network as well, where the big companies, they're not, they're not suffering too much from that, but really is like solopreneurs or smaller businesses like mine that
Yeah.
have suffered a little bit from that.
Yeah. I feel that so deeply right now. And currently I'm pursuing my master's in digital marketing. And we're talking so much about the implementation of AI and how that is um, convincing a lot of people that it's somehow the end all be all solution, and outside of marketing as well, in the health and wellness area too. And what I keep trying to remind people is that, like, look, yeah, it does spit out information pretty quickly, and you can even ask it to take on a certain role so that it's focused on a particular niche or a particular industry. But there's still a lot of human nuance that
Mhm.
it does not know how to convey yet. So sure, you'll get a lot of dietary information supposedly, but unless again you have someone providing you that accountability, which AI will not do, or unless you have someone helping you to look at what was given and kind of really uh, rehash it and really kind of um, work it into a more proper set, you don't really know if what you're truly getting is quality,
That
right?
yeah, no, that's so true. And like to your point of the of AI with marketing, I think it transfers over to like content creation as well because yes, we
Mm-hmm.
can use it um, or I do use it, let's just say for my own podcast, I use AI as well to help me create a description below on
Sure,
YouTube and
yeah,
whatever, like that sort of stuff. But I have also, like, have never used AI to help me write a newsletter, maybe give me some prompts if I'm stuck on ideas or
sure.
even captions on Instagram. There's nothing wrong with using AI, but I do think, to your point, I think people note also if it doesn't sound authentic, and they note if it's not really your words, even
Hmm.
if not at first instance, on a deeper level, like there's some sort of
Yeah,
energy that's being carried from you just speaking your own truth, and I do think that
yeah.
the right people will notice that.
Yeah, especially if they've been following you for a while and they
Mhm.
know what Lisa usually sounds like. Like, what's Lisa's usual voice compared to this new bit of content?
Yes,
This doesn't sound like her quite right.
100%.
And something I'll let you know about too with AI as well. And this is something you might want to bring up to any of your clients who are trying to find that kind of easy way with AI. Is a guy named Chris Carr talked about AI in a podcast interview a little while ago, and he talked about this phenomena called hallucination, where generative AI like Gemini, ChatGPT can be given a prompt and it'll rattle off a bunch of information about something and sound very educated in the subject, but a percentage of it is made up. It
Hmm.
doesn't actually know what it's talking about.
Wow, wow.
So, so to back to your point about potential clients or people in your space getting dietary information from generative AI, a lot of what a percentage of what they're being given
Could be
isn't necessarily
dangerous, like
based
even
off
if
of
it's
actual
made up.
statistics.
Yeah.
So
Wow, that's shocking.
that's I thought that was crazy hearing about that because of course to your point I've used it to help remind me of things that I know, give me a couple of points of reference and whatnot, but it's also like wow, you really have to focus
Well,
in
and
on
the sad thing is that a lot of people don't know how to dissect the truth from the untruth, and they just
yeah.
trust it blindly.
Mm-hmm.
And like, going back to my point of like education based, I truly want people to understand like what is a high protein food, or how many calories roughly is in this and that, as opposed to just typing it in somewhere and then
Right.
getting the numbers spit out. And because then 10 years later, you might be stuck, you might be somewhere without your phone. Like, I don't know what's happening in 10 years, but you might not have a phone, and then you're like, well, I don't know what to choose now. Like, for me, it's more about gaining that knowledge, that security for yourself as well, so that no matter what situation you're in, you feel confident with your own choice.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And then we're getting a little bit close to our time here, so I'm going to go and move on to my final question for you, Lisa. Through your journey thus far, and both as a business owner, and as a health and wellness and mindset thought leader, how thus far would you go about defining success in your
Ooh,
world?
great question. Um, I was actually speaking to someone about this yesterday and just sharing that that's actually both of those aspects have really changed for me over time. So my
Mm-hmm.
first mentor, he was amazing, but really, really numbers based and focused, and always saying like, next month you should aim to have this much more income, and then in 6 months' time another 3% on top, and like it was always up and up and up. And I
Mm-hmm.
was truthfully very caught in that, probably the first 2, 3 years as an entrepreneur or business owner as well. And that's how I would almost would have defined my success at the time. And I was kind of stuck in that, unless I'm falling into bed really exhausted at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
day, having checked off all my to-dos, it wasn't a successful day. And
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, at some point, I realized that that's A, not sustainable, and B, it's not like money is not everything. Numbers are not everything. Just because you have 5 new clients or more clients than the previous month, were you happier that month? Probably not necessarily. Like,
Mm-hmm.
unless, there's got to be some give. And so over the last probably 3 years, I've really shifted that and almost forced myself to learn to also enjoy the times of doing nothing, which comes really hard to me. And like I'm naturally like the way that I was brought up, and like
Yeah.
I'm a doer person, but if you're that person, of course, yes, it allows you to be quite successful sometimes, but
Hmm.
you might also miss a large part of your life because you're always just thinking about tomorrow or worrying about
Hmm.
yesterday. And so yeah, leaning into that present moment, and just sometimes like a couple of weeks ago, I had an afternoon that was completely empty. And of course, I was tempted to be like, oh, I could work in advance and create more content for this, what this and that. And I literally had to force myself and just, I was like, I'm gonna try and see if I can take a nap. I'm not a napping person. I didn't fall asleep. But even just the thought of like, I'm gonna see if I can take a nap, that would have never occurred even 2 years ago. So yeah, I think probably everyone goes through different stages in their
Yeah.
career and entrepreneurship, but it might also have to do with like maturity, just in general in life. But I
Some of us
think
like that.
I do think you notice at some point that work is not everything. Like, I mean, I live on my own. I don't have any kids or family, and so you need to actually make time and invest in social connections as well. I think
Hmm.
that's something that I have learned, even though I'm someone like I'm more of an introverted person. I love being alone, but where am I at in 50 years? I don't want to be just sitting alone in my own in my own
Sure.
little.
Yeah.
So that takes some effort as well. And I think that's something I have also learned from my clients, like when I hear them, because it's always easier to spot something in other people, right? Like if they tell you about their stressful life and you're
Hmm.
like, oh, why are you binge eating? Oh, because I'm alone and blah, 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 blah. And you're kind of like pity that person. Then you're like, oh, hang on. In some aspects, I'm not that different from you. I also work
Hmm.
14-hour days. So,
Yeah.
so why can't I preach to you if I'm not implementing on my own? So yeah, I would say my success definitely has shifted, and nowadays I would define it more as in like being content with the present moment and with like doing exactly like enjoying almost every moment of your day. Yes, granted, there
Hmm.
are going to be times where you need to write invoices or perhaps use an Excel spreadsheet if you really have to. But aside from that, for me, success is just if you can, enjoy really a large part of your day and be happy with the small things, like get excited about a good cup of coffee in the morning or the fact that you can go for a walk in the sunshine and let that be the highlight of your day.
That's such an awesome answer. I've previously found I was in a real rut in my undergrad where all I had to do, I realized I just kept letting myself sit in the same rigid little schedule. And when I finally diverted from it and did take a walk and did enjoy the sunshine, it in that moment made things 1,000 times better. It
That's
felt like so good to be divergent for a few minutes. It feels so
It's
good.
so hard to do that though, to break out of that
Hmm.
cycle. You're like, oh, I should, and no, I could. But then once you're actually in it, or at the very latest afterwards, you feel good about having done it.
Exactly, and it's always that transitional from beforehand to that successfulness. It's that in between that's always a pain in the butt.
Totally, absolutely agree.
Well, Lisa, thank you so much for being on. For those of you who enjoyed this show, be sure to check out Lisa's website, nutritioncoachingandlife.com. If you want more insights from her, check out her show, Nutrition and Life Podcast with Coach Lisa, on your favorite streaming platforms. Thank you again, Lisa, for being on the show. And I think I would love to have you on again down the line for sure.
Would be my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, BC.
Thank you. And we'll go ahead and end the recording.